This video is brought to you by Dr. Kristen R. Bromley's Guitar Method Book Series and Online Music Academy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Bromley. Welcome to my online academy. It's so great to have you joining me here in these online lessons. This is lesson 5 in this series that is all about jazz guitar. If you've been watching these lessons, you know I love jazz guitar. I've been super excited to bring you this course here on the channel. I've got so many years and thousands upon thousands of hours of experience in jazz guitar. My undergrad and master's degrees are in jazz studies. My doctorate, I spent a lot of time working on jazz education, well over 10,000 hours of research on jazz education, so lots and lots of academic work on jazz. But I also work as a performing and recording artist on jazz. I've got a handful of albums out already, and so I just love jazz guitar. It's one of my greatest guitar expertises, so I've just been so excited to bring you this course. In the first 4 lessons, we worked on comping the chords with the shell voicings. Now, there are 3 different parts to playing jazz guitar. One is comping the chords, and we're going to learn a lot of different voicings throughout the course. A second aspect is playing written melodies, and we'll work on that some. We can also learn melodies by ear, and that's a great thing to do as well. The third part is improvising solos, and that's such a big part. It's perhaps the funnest part so much of the time. In this lesson, we're going to start working on some techniques that we'll need to use as we improvise solos, and we're going to work on some of those things, some things to do with improvising solos over the next few lessons. So now that we've got the chords down and we're ready to play some tunes that way, we need to work on the improv side so we can play some tunes that way. So we're going to start off with the chord tones of major 6th chord. We're going to learn, in other words, major 6th arpeggios. We're going to learn 2 different versions that are really great to start with that'll get us improvising here in a really proficient way. So without further ado, let's just dive in. I want to mention as we do that we have to learn on guitar, we have to learn how to play chord voicings, but playing chords melodically is important too. This comes to us in a way from our horn players. So they can't play 2 notes at once as one individual person on trumpet or saxophone or trombone or what have you. They can only play 1. They got to learn to play the chords melodically. We got to do the same thing when we improvise solos. We got to be able to play those chords melodically. One of the great parts about the jazz language is this constant tension and release. What happens is we've got these chord tones. They're the release. They always work with the chord no matter when we're playing them, no matter what. Whatever the chord tones are of a given chord, they always work for improvising over that chord. And then we use the other notes in the chromatic scale to build tension, then resolve. And we have to learn how to do that. And we're going to learn how to do that in this course. But we have to first, before we can ever build tension and release, we've got to be able to improvise with the chord tones. It's such a foundational and important aspect. Helps our ear start to grasp this language. In jazz, we have to play things specific to each chord, whereas in other styles like blues and pop, things like rock and so on, places where we might improvise, we don't always have to worry about the specific chord that we're playing over. We can sort of gloss over the top. But that's not stylistic to jazz. We spend a lot more time in jazz playing things specific to the chord. And so that starts with chord tones. So we're going to look at the major 6th chord today. We're going to work on improvising with the major 6th chord in the next lesson. Then we'll work on some dominant chord things as well. On those arpeggios, we'll work on the minor chords, we'll apply these things to tunes, and we'll learn some other techniques for improvising around these arpeggios. So lots of great things, so foundational to learning this language and a lot of fun to do. So some of what we're going to do, we'll start off in the early eras, which is perfect, it's foundational, and then we'll build on that with other things that came later like bebop and what came after bebop. So lots of fun improv things to do in this lesson, but today we're going to start off very foundational with the major 6 arpeggios. 2 different shapes we're going to learn that'll get us going really great. So up here on the board I've got them written. Now, as we get started, we're not going to add the 6th just yet. We're going to start with just the regular old major triad, which has the root, 3, and 5. And what's so great about these shapes I've got up here on the board, one, they overlap as we're finding them with the shell voicings, because we got a root on the 6th string and a root on the 5th string. So that helps us when we're trying to find where we're going to play for a given key. But they're also great because they overlap with bar chord shapes that are hopefully familiar to us. So as we start off with the 6th string form, I'm going to do this in C. If I were to play just a C bar chord coming out of my E chord shape in first position, if I come up here and do that here, where I'm barring at the 8th fret because I've got a C on that 6th string at the 8th fret, and put that E chord shape in front of it, I have all but one note of my arpeggio here. So I only have to add one note, and you can see up here on the board it looks just like the bar chord shape. If you can get inside seeing that, it will really help you. So if I put down that bar chord, every single one of these notes is in the arpeggio. I just need to add one additional pitch, and that is the 3rd of the chord here on the 5th string. So if we look at this lower octave, if I put my middle finger on the 8th fret of that 6th string, and then do my index finger on the next string at the 7th fret, and my pinky at the 10th fret, and then if I go up with my pinky again to the 10th fret on the next string, I have this lower octave, 1, 3, 5, just like that, and you can get comfortable doing that. Now sometimes when we're actually playing, using the pinky doesn't work very well. So I will actually reach with my ring finger to that 10th fret and finger it that way. Just depends on the moment, so it's good to be able to do both. Now if we take a look at the top octave on this shape, it's just like our F chord down in first position that only uses 4 frets, which is the top 4 strings of the E chord, turned into a bar chord as well. And I can put those fingers down and play that. So I've got my ring finger at the 10th fret on that 4th string, and then my middle at the 9th, and then index at the 8th, and I have root, 3, 5, root, 5, 3, root. If I stick the whole thing together, we would have play through that as many times as you need to get comfortable with it. Once you've got that down, we want to add the 6th to the chord, which we're going to do in both octaves. So it's going to add one pitch in both octaves. So if we go over here to the right side of the board, our 6th in the 1st octave is in the same fret as our 3rd. So if I just use my fingers here, I've got my middle finger on that 8th fret, I'd have 2 or middle, and then index, pinky, index, pinky, index, pinky, index, middle. And I'm using frets 8, 7, 10, 7, 10, 7, 10, 7, 8. Now you might recognize this, sort of a boogie bass line. Some of that early rock, blues, boogie music all use that kind of a bass line. So it came right out of a major 6th arpeggio. That's the one that we have to add for that lower octave. Then if we take a look at the upper octave, it's really the same. If you've ever played the F6 chord in first position, it's just that same addition here, where we're adding this note 2 frets higher than where our index would play it. So I would have, with my ring finger, middle, index, ring. So it goes just like that. So I've got ring, middle, index, ring, index, ring, index, middle, ring. If I put the 2 octaves together, I could have middle, index, pinky, index. Now I could use my pinky again, but I actually usually reach to put my ring finger there, so I can go ring, middle, index, ring, index, ring, index, middle, ring, and then reach back down to my index, pinky, index, middle. That's probably the most common way that I will finger it, but you can finger it any way you'd like to. You want to run up and down it though, and get comfortable playing in that. once you have it down, the next thing to do is take it chromatically through different keys on the guitar. So I like to start down where I'm starting on the G, so I'm in second position technically. You could start in first, but I like to start on that G. Sort of put my roots between frets 3 and 10 as sort of a minimum. I could play the entire neck if I want to, but we'll just do frets 3 to 10. So I like to play this and then just move it up chromatically. So if we start down here with the G, and I'll mention as I'm doing this that I'm going to just take it at sort of a slow but not too slow tempo. But if I'm playing it too fast, then you want to pause, work on it until you can play it at this tempo, because it really helps as we're learning things to master them with accuracy. And the slower we need to play something to do it accurately, we should do that, because it creates sort of these super highways through our nervous system. So our brain has to tell our body how to do something. It has to send it down through our spinal cord into our nerves and to our fingertips. And so every time we do something accurately and then do it again accurately, it creates a super highway. It just makes our brain that much faster at telling our fingers, so to speak, how to do something. Some people, like in layman's terms, call it muscle memory, but we want to establish that every time we make a mistake. So if we're just fumbling through things at a faster tempo, we don't create those super highways. We create all sorts of diversity here and there as far as paths that could be taken, and we don't want to do that. We want to create those super highways, make it like a freeway of accuracy right down. So the slower you need to play something, you want to do that. I don't want these videos to stretch on too long for you, so I'm just going to play it at a slower tempo, but not too slow. So do whatever you need to get it so you can play them accurately at this tempo. And if you're okay at this tempo, that's great too. But I want to mention that so as you're learning, it's really valuable to just get things accurately at a slow tempo. If we do, we learn things actually much faster, and we can get our fingers so they move accurately much faster than we ever would just sort of fumbling through things. Okay, so enough of that lecture. Here we go. We're going to start here on G, then we'll move up to G sharp or A flat, and so on. So you go 1, 2, ready, we'd have the G arpeggio. Move up to A flat. We'll go up to A. I'm going to take it a little bit faster. Then we'll go up to B flat or A sharp. To B. Then we're going to go up to C. C sharp or D flat. To D. We could keep going, but I'm going to stop there and take a look now at the next form, which is off the 5th string. So with this one, it's really cool because the shape, just back to the major chord without the 6th, comes right out of the A chord shape that we use in first position that can be turned into a bar chord. So if I play C on that 5th string, which is at the 3rd fret, and put that shape in front of it, I've got a C chord here in that bar chord shape. And if I look up here on the board, you can see that every single one of those notes is right there inside of this arpeggio pattern. We just have to add one note, and that's that 3rd that's right above that low root. It's the same as what we had to do here. So I would have middle finger at that 3rd fret, and then on the next string at the 2nd fret, and then I can grab with my pinky or ring finger, but I'm going to do it with my pinky for the moment at the 5th fret, next string 5th fret, next string 5th fret, and then top string 3rd fret. Now, when we're actually improvising, like we did with this one, using the ring finger and so on, I usually use the ring finger and index on those top strings. So what I'm going to do is go middle at the 3rd fret, index at the 2nd, and then I could grab ring finger at the 5th, ring finger at the 5th, ring finger at the 5th, index. So once you get that comfortably down, let's look at adding step 6 to this arpeggio. So just like we had it here, our 6th in that first octave is just one string higher than when we have the 3rd. So just in that octave, it's the same fingering, only everything's moved one string higher. We have middle, index, pinky, index, pinky, index, pinky, index, middle. Or 2, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 2. Just like that. And of course, I could use my ring finger instead of the pinky as well. Now, in the higher octave, we don't actually have an extra root on top, but we do have the root, 3rd, 5th, and then we have that 6th. So, and I could have mentioned that here. We don't have that higher root, we just have root 3, 5. And that's okay, that's what we have in that position. But we've got the root 3, 5, and then that 6th that's 2 frets higher than the 5th. Same way it sat that way here, but now it's on the higher string. So if I put my ring finger on that 5th fret of that 3rd string, and then I go up to the next string, still at the 5th fret, index, and then I'm going to have ring. We can play it just like that. So if I put it together, I would have my middle finger, and then index, pinky, index, and then I'm going to reach with my ring finger to that 5th fret and go ring, ring, index, ring. So fret-wise, I have 3, 2, 5, 2, 5, 5, 5, 3, 5, 3, 5, 5, 2, 5, 2, 3. And my fingers wise, I'm going middle, index, pinky, index, I'm reaching with my ring, then ring, index, ring, index, ring, ring, index. So I had to reach there, and then pinky, index, middle. Now just like we took this one up chromatically, we want to do that same thing with this shape off the 5th string, starting right there on that 5th string at the 3rd fret with C. We can do that. We'll just move up chromatically. So we go ready and. Then we're going to go up to the next fret. So C sharp or D flat, now D. D sharp or E flat. Then up to E. Up to F. F sharp or G flat. And then up to G. Great. I assume it's great. If that's a little fast, then just do the same thing at a slower tempo, but get those down comfortably. Once you do, the next thing that we want to do is take these shapes through the circle of fourths, working through all 12 keys. And we want to do this because a lot of times when we're improvising, the music will progress from chord to chord by going through the circle of fourths. So it's really helpful to practice this, and these two shapes work really great together this way. And this really prepares us for when we're going to be improvising over tunes. So, just as a review, I have the circle of fourths written up here on the board. So, we're going to start with C6, then we've got F6, B flat 6, E flat 6, A flat 6, D flat 6, G flat 6, B6, E6, A6, D6, G6. That's like a tongue twister. Back to C6. Take a screenshot of the board if you need to before I'm standing a little bit in front of it. So on the guitar, this is going to work the same way that it did when we were working on the chords. So if we start with that C at the 8th fret of the 6th string, we can move to F by moving to the next string but staying in the same fret, then B flat, back to the 6th string 2 frets lower, E flat is in the same fret but on the 5th string, A flat, we go down 2 frets but we're on the 6th string, D flat, we go up to the next string, stay in the same fret. To go to G flat, we're going to go 5 frets higher, so we'll be on that 9th fret. Then to go to B, 2 frets lower on the 6th string, E, just up to the next string, then A, down 2 frets, but on the 6th string, D, up to the next string, G, down 2 frets on the 6th string, and then up to C again, still at that 3rd fret. So we can progress through that root movement using these arpeggio shapes, and we want to be able to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with you, starting on C. So we're going to go 1, 2, ready, and we have C. Then we're going to go up to F. To B flat, now to E flat, now to A flat. D flat, we're going to slide up to G flat, so roots at the 9th fret. Now we're going to go to B, now to E, now to A, now to D, now to G, and now to C. Just like that. So it's super important to get these arpeggios down, get them comfortable. Okay, so that wraps us up for this lesson. I hope it's super helpful. I hope it's fun for you. These arpeggios are so important to get down. You're going to want to make sure and get these shapes down. Be comfortable with them in all 12 keys, and you'll be ready for the next lesson where we're going to start improvising with these notes. And we've got a backing track. I've got a backing track for you so we can improvise and start improvising solos with these notes and getting prepared to play tunes that have them in. Of course, as we move forward, we'll do dominant 7th chords, minor 7th chords as well, and we'll learn all sorts of other improv techniques. So get these arpeggios down, get them comfortable, so you'll be ready to start improvising with them in our next lesson. It's going to be great. Take care. We'll see you again. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For more in-depth lessons and to progress through a free guitar course, check out my Guitar 101 series on YouTube and my guitar method books, which all come with access to hours of in-depth video lessons. You can find more information about me and my products at KristenBromley.com. Take care.